Hey, welcome to Creative Block. We're your hosts, VEE
and Sean, aka Lord Spew. We talk shop with other creatives in animation and comics about things like finding your artistic path or the process of making art while we doodle on Magma.
We asked people on our social medias if they had specific topics they wanted us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts. If you haven't yet, check out our Patreon and subscribe to our channel.
Today we have with us a very special guest, Morgan Noll. Welcome to the show.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
This is so fun. We haven't had a ton of viz dev artists on the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because Sean and I were mostly from storyboards, so most of the people that we know are like from storyboards. Tell us a little bit about viz dev. Did you always know that was like the specific category that you wanted to go into, or did you kind of like flip-flop around the different animation jobs out there?
Yeah, my whole deal with animation is like it's so weird. First of all, animation and like biz dev itself for me is a second career. I was not like a lifelong artist. No, I've only been drawing for a couple of years. We can get to that.
Oh yeah, we have to talk about that because your art is fucking
you could
really
not tell
good.
that. Someone could not tell that. Yeah. So where did you start off?
Okay, so I, as a kid, I was a jock. I loved doing sports. I loved being outside. I loved running. I loved, hiking, all that stuff. I loved theater, and I loved band. And so I was doing all that kind of stuff. I was not drawing. I didn't take any art classes in high school. I didn't really draw past just being an 8-year-old and being like, look, mom, look at my tree, right? And so when I went to college, I was like, oh, I really want to go into neuroscience. That's for me. And so I applied for that
craft to go into.
I love that. It's like, what is it that you can't do? The character is maxed out on all the stats.
I was like, oh, that's the big brain move, right? Like, I'll take care of my body and my mind. And I was like, okay, that'll be fun. And so I applied to the University of British Columbia, and I got in. I was so excited. I was so ready to go. But they took me in for veterinary sciences. They had fucked up.
Wait,
what?
I
thought that was harder than regular medicine. That's what I always hear.
That's what I heard. So I applied for neurosciences, and I think they just messed up or something. And they ended up putting me into veterinary and tract under land and food systems. And I was like, I think this is wrong, but I didn't want to say anything because I was...
college, I mean, it's not like college administration is neuroscience or whatever, that's crazy. Wait, so did you just go along with it? Was this not correcting someone for calling you the wrong name for years? You just well, it's easier to just do this.
Yeah, we were in too deep. I was Megan. I was like, yep, I'm Megan. That's fine. Sure.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
So I went in for vet, but I was like, it's fine. I can correct it. Now that I'm in, I'll correct it. We'll get our life back on track. We'll go to neurosciences. And then I went to college and was like, wait, I love learning and I love all these different electives I get to take. And I had enough AP credits that I could kind of hop majors, which I did often. So I ended up majoring in psychology for a term and then linguistics. And I was like, I'm going to do a minor in art history. And I finally settled on English literature as my major. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I was doing. I was like, that's it. I'm going to be an English teacher. I'm going to be the cool, what is it? Oh, Captain, my Captain. I'm going to be Robin Williams. I'm going to lead a little school of private boys and inspire the youth. That was the plan.
That's so cool.
And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do my term abroad. And they didn't let us pick. We kind of gave them a little
You're not getting to pick much at all.
No.
They're just putting you places and you're like, I got...
Exactly. That's kind of how my life has gone. They were like, okay, well, give us your top three choices. And I was like, Japan. Oh,
Ooh.
beautiful Japan. And they went, cool, cool. How about Scotland?
They really, wow, they are not letting up. You're
Too close enough.
I was like, yeah, same thing. Sure. So I went to University of Glasgow for a term, and I ended up falling in love with student theater at Glasgow, which is like, and their little theater society there, and it's like, it's a club. They put on 22 shows a year, like stuff that they've written, adaptation work, festival. They'll do like 20-minute pieces, and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And in America, you don't do a lot of that. Like plays are very dusty things where it's like six people on the stage doing like, Shakespeare, and then there's blackouts and people awkwardly moving
oh
like
my
cubes
God.
in the dark for 5 minutes, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
this
yeah.
wasn't that. This was
Mhm.
like explosive, cool stuff. And I was like, what the heck? This is amazing. Um, so I basically told my school, I'm transferring. I'm not coming back. And they went, what? And I went, bye. And so I ended up falling completely in love with theater. And I was doing that with them. I started writing my own shows. I wrote these like one man horror shows, and they were super fun to do. And I was having a great time. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to do theater forever. So I applied to do my master's at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. Um, in a program called Advanced Theater Practice, which sounds very pretentious, but it was actually clown school, and I loved it so much.
I love that that is the perfect
Whoa.
dude, clown is the perfect like Venn diagram of jock and theater kid.
Yes, exactly.
And
I
then
basically
oddly
trained to
enough,
be a jester.
animation too, a little
Yes,
bit.
yes, yes.
Like
I don't know.
Yeah,
Animators love the clowns. We love clowns.
my like soapbox that I get on all the time is I think all animators should be like forced to do at least like one improv class or one physical
Yes.
theater class because oh my God, coming from a background in acting, it
Hmm.
made when I eventually went to like animation school so much easier because I knew how to move the body. I knew
Right.
what I would be doing, like how to stand, like certain things like that, like super, super useful. And so I was like, all right, clown school, what you got for me? And it was the most important thing I've ever done because it really broke apart everything that I knew about entertainment. Like I liked movies, I liked animation, I liked theater, but this was nuts. This was like people trying to figure out how to engage people, like how to make people laugh, like what's silly, what's fun to watch people do on stage. It wasn't just like,
Yeah.
oh, we're gonna read this book, right?
Hmm.
And I loved it. I loved it so much. I did a lot of that stuff. And then I started working at the Soho Theatre in London as a venue manager. So I worked for their comedy club. So
Hmm.
basically, I got all the writer for all the British comedians, and I didn't know any of them because I'm an American. So I'd be like, "You're who? Okay, that's nice. Good to see you. Anyway, here's your Coke." I did that for ages and ages, and I loved it. And I was like working with my partner, writing shows
Hmm.
and doing the venue. And then this really cool thing happened called COVID.
Ah, ah. I remember
Um,
that one.
Yeah. And we couldn't go on stage anymore. My job shut down, essentially. They were like, all right, everyone's got to go home. We can't do any of the shows. We can't bring in any of the comedians. We can't have this many people in a room.
Did they try to do
And
the Zoom thing? You know how like all the improv
Oh
things
my
try to do the
god.
Zoom improv, and I was just like, that's
So it's so
so fucking
awkward, dude.
awkward.
There's
Yeah.
like a
we did
delay,
some
so
very
everyone's like
awkward.
stepping on each other's jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. We tried to adapt. We tried.
It sounds like the back and
Uh,
forth from this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. No one steps on each other's what each other's saying at all on this on Creative Block.
Mhm.
no, absolutely not. Very streamlined. And so I was furloughed from my gig. They were like, all right, we're gonna pay you just like this will blow over in a month. Don't worry.
Oh no.
All right, no problem. It didn't.
Oh no.
So I was like, all right, I'm never going to get on the live stage again. I have to figure out what to do. We got to make a career move. And so basically in the spring of 2020, I got myself a screenless tablet. I taught myself how to draw from ground zero. And then I got into animation school March 2021.
Wow. How old were you when you got the tablet?
When I started learning to draw, I was 23.
23. Amazing, amazing. I love this story. It's interesting because, so you said you drew a little tiny bit as a kid, but what made you think of drawing at all?
You know what it was is that like I love theater. I think it's amazing. It requires a lot of people to be in the
Yes.
same
Yeah.
room together.
Uh-huh.
And it also is not something you can practice by yourself.
Yep.
So I was a playwright and I was a director, but in order to practice directing, you need a script, you need actors, right? You can't just be like, I'll just, I'll brush up my craft.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, what can I do by myself if I'm stuck? And I was really, really like amazed by artists. I was like, wow, that's incredible. They can wake up, they can roll out of bed, they can grab a pen, and they can make anything they want
Mm-hmm.
right there out of nothing. And I was like, that's the most amazing thing in the whole wide world. I want to learn how to do that.
Well,
This is so cool. I love that you're kind of just inspired to follow things and nothing's too scary. Like from neuroscience to clown school to drawing, it's really impressive. So how much time did you give yourself to learn how to draw before you started applying for online schools?
Um, so basically when I got that tablet, I was like, okay, we have to
Mhm.
we have to figure this out. Like, what is art? What are we doing? Um, and so I didn't know that I was going to apply to animation school when I started. I think I learned I was going to do it that October.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, I basically did this little thing where I made a little like Venn diagram. I wrote down every single thing that I like. I was like, what are you into? Storytelling. You're
Mhm.
into, you're into movies. You're into narrative design for games. You're into this and that. And then I made a little Venn diagram and it was like, okay, the medium that contains all of this is animation. And I was like,
Mm.
dang, you're right. So I was like, okay, now I got to start looking for schools. And because I had already done a, master's and a bachelor's, I was like, there's no way in hell I'm gonna pay for another bachelor's degree. I
well,
can't.
what was stopping you from going back to? I mean, you had gotten into other potential career paths before this that could be something potentially. I feel like that you could work on during or after COVID, right? Like you like the in between the science stuff and the like
English
like you
major.
did accidentally get sorted into other things besides art, you know.
Mhm.
What made you decide like, listen, I just need a fresh start. I'm trying to draw.
Well, it was because, I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. We were in our house in London.
That's
My
right.
partner and I, we
Gotcha.
were locked and we were in a studio apartment.
Oh
So
my
I was like,
God. How
I
did
got to
you
learn to
just
do something.
Yeah, how did you like I mean this is more of a rhetorical question, like how did you survive this? Because I feel like I got so lucky that during the pandemic my partner was he never he kept going to work the entire time because of the nature of his work.
Mhm.
I don't know, man, like being a tiny studio with two people, it's so crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts.
I also wanted to ask you, as an English major, you were like an English major for a short amount of time. What's your favorite classic literature?
Ooh, Frankenstein, for sure.
Ooh, hell yeah.
Absolutely. The original sci-fi, for sure.
Well, that you could argue Dr. Frankenstein is an animator.
Oh,
A
oh my
reanimator,
God.
a
A
retake, a
reanimator!
retake
A
artist.
retake animator!
Yeah.
Oh
No,
my God.
I always
Mm,
liked the Count of Monte Cristo, but I'm a sucker for revenge stories. So
I
Ooh,
still
and
need to
that's a
read
good
that
one.
one. I need to read that one. That sounds very JoJo in a way.
Wait, how is that JoJo?
I don't know. It just sounds like it's just like so epic and like big and like he's going to jail and stuff. I don't know. I guess it's because I saw,
It's going
that's
to
all I
jail.
know. I've never even read it. I'm just like making assumptions from something I've never
wait,
read.
wait. Are you saying you've never read JoJo either?
No, I have read the first arc of
Okay,
JoJo.
I was
actually
about to say I thought you were comparing two things that you hadn't read before, and I was like, well, that was a risky leap.
I just
Yeah, no notes.
keeping things keeping things crazy.
Sure.
Let's get back to animating during COVID. Sorry about that, y'all.
Yeah,
No, talking literature is good.
I'm into it. Don't worry.
Um,
And Count of Monte Cristo, that's a good one. That's a damn good one. Trapping someone behind a wall because you don't like them? Hell yeah.
wait, that's the Cask of Amontillado.
Oh, shoot. Oh my God, they're going to take my literature card away.
That is so funny. Like, it's funny because this podcast is like it like starts to become one of those like trivia shows, and then we all like show our asses that we're like, we know nothing.
Who's the literature major now?
That's right.
I've reclaimed your. I get to intercept and keep anybody's degrees that I correct.
I thought the Count of Monte Cristo was being sent to jail.
Yes, Count of Monte.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I will do this as fast as possible. Count of Monte Cristo. He gets wrongfully accused of treason. He gets sent to jail for like 15 years. He escapes from jail through a tunnel system and finds a treasure, and comes back as the Count of Monte Cristo with all this money and infiltrates all the people that betrayed him and kills them.
Wow, that actually sounds really dope.
It's cool. Yeah.
I just knew
cool.
about him being in jail. I just knew that he was in jail for a long time, and I was like, I don't know if I can read 15 books. I don't know how long it is. It's super long.
No, I don't think it's super long. I don't think it's super long. But Cask of Amontillado is a person who gets walled into a little cell with bricks, which is a different story. But also a good revenge story. I like revenge stories.
I love it. I am living for this like 15-second like flash summary. Like go.
Okay, I'm so sorry, but I love movies like Old Boy. I love which is very
I watched
Monte
Old Boy
Cristo
recently.
coded.
It's insane. Sorry, we're like going on a big tangent.
No, it sounds great. I've never seen it.
You should watch it just because it is a really the cinematography of it is really cool. But the story's unhinged.
It's so weird, dude.
It's so weird. But I don't want to say more than this because when you watch it, you'll see. Yeah, you can.
I'm writing it down right now. I'm so excited. I'm like, weird, unhinged. That's right up my alley.
It's really famous for a scene where he eats a squid alive. That's the scene that like a lot of people usually kind of share.
No notes. That's all I need to know. He eats a squid alive. I'm going in blind later.
It's not even the most effed up thing that happens.
Yeah.
So okay.
Anyway,
we will reset. Well, V tried to pivot, and then I was like, actually, no, I'm pivoting back. But okay, so you have set yourself to becoming good at drawing, good enough what was your goal? What was your first goal here?
Well, my first goal was to break down what the fuck is art, right? Like when you're trying to learn something, you're like, okay, I'm going to learn art. What the heck does that mean? What is art? How am I going to do that, right? Because you got to break that down into tangible steps. Otherwise, you just go,
Yep.
Art. So, I just come off of like writing a script for a year that like I hope one day to turn into an animation adaptation of this little play. And so I was like really used to breaking down these tasks. So I was like, okay, like the medium of art is like really opaque to me. Like I don't even know the questions that I need to ask. But I think like once I start, okay, then it's gonna become clearer. I can become more directed. I just need to find somewhere to start, right? Because like a beginner doesn't know what to look up to improve their draftsmanship because they don't know what the heck draftsmanship is, right? And I remember light like really boggling me. I was like, what is it? Like, how are we making choices around it? Like it's not random. There's like a logic. And if I can
Yeah.
find the logic, then I
And
can
so you started going to school
follow the
for
formula.
physics to figure out how light works, and just like go
I
on
mean,
another
you're not
tangent.
wrong. You're actually not wrong. I, I broke it down into like manageable subjects, and that was part of it. I was really interested in the physics of light.
Mm-hmm.
So I took there's a course on schoolism from Sam Nielsen.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely fantastic course. If you want to get better at light, beginners, everybody go take it. It's like fundamentals of lighting. And it like really does go through like how does light work in the atmosphere? How does it bounce off of objects? How does it scatter underneath objects? Like how does water vapor affect how light travels as a medium? And that like it blew my mind.
Yeah.
I felt like the secrets of the universe were like going before me. I was Nostradamus. I was like, it's happening.
I just imagine you vaping for research, like on water vapor. You're like, hold on, I'm doing experiments, and you're like doing like cool vape tricks.
You're not wrong because my poor partner was watching me run around our studio apartment with a red cutting board and an orange, and I was picking it up and down to see how the red bounce light would work. And I'm like, this all over the place. He's like, what the hell are you
That's
doing?
hilarious.
That's so funny, dude.
I was like, I'm learning art. What does it look like I'm doing? This is how it's done.
I like that you have a very kind of like scientific approach to art in a way where it's very much like thesis, like a like hypothesis and like testing it out. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of like I'm learning this thing. I want to make sure
Hmm.
I kind of like figure it out in the world. It's a I think it's very cool.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I've always loved math and science. So I was like, okay, there's a way that we can figure out how this works on a technical level, and
Hmm.
then we can do the fun stuff where we break it all apart and inject our own personality and design, right? So I
Hmm.
basically built myself a little summer school during COVID. So I would do like light and shadow studies. I would do perspective and form, value and color, shape, language, and draftsmanship, anatomy, and then I would do like story and composition.
That's awesome. And so that was in and so the school that you decided to go to, was it the schoolism class or was it something different?
No, so after I was doing all my little online ones, I was like, okay, I don't know what came over me. I think it's because I didn't know much about the industry. Like I hadn't been following it for my whole life. I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll
Mhm.
switch careers to animation. What? Like, that'll be
Yeah.
fine. I sheer hubris, but I was like, okay, well, I need to go to school for that. I cannot go to another 4 year school. I've already got my 4 years bachelor. I've already done 2 years of a master's of fine arts. I cannot, it'll bankrupt me, first of all, can't do it. And I was also living with my partner in the UK and they're Scottish. So I was like, well, um, getting you to the US might be kind of difficult, especially
Hmm.
now, right?
Hmm.
And I'm American. And so I actually found out there was a school in Canada called Capilano University. Pearl Lowe also went there. And they have a 2 year program called Animation and Visual Development. And I was like, okay, 2 years, amazing. That's great, baby. 2 years, I retrain, I enter back into a new career. We can write this train, like we can pivot.
Hmm.
So I was like, all right, let's do this. And also, it was much easier for me to and my partner to immigrate to Canada than it would be for me to get him a green card into the US.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
So that's what I did. I applied to them. So I basically my timeline was, May 2020 I started. I got accepted into Capilano March 2021. I did my 2 years. I graduated May 2023, and that's when I got scouted and I entered industry. So it took me 3 years from zero to professional.
Oh
Whoa!
my
That
god.
is
Unreal.
so unreal and impressive. Very cool. How can you tell us about what getting scouted like what that looked like and how that happened for you?
For sure, yeah. So Capilano University at the end of the year, they do a grad show. Because the program is so quick, right? Like it's really just get in, learn animation, learn biz dev. Okay, see ya. We don't really do like a thesis film or anything. So your grad show
Right.
kind of becomes like things that you've been working on throughout the whole course. And because I was an older student, I mean, older, relatively, right? Like most people would come in at 17.
Sure.
Because I
Right.
was older, I was like, I'm going in with a plan. I don't want to animate. It makes me cry. I don't have the
Yeah,
patience for it.
I
I
feel
love
that.
backgrounds. I
Hmm.
only want to draw backgrounds. I love cubes. I love shapes. I don't want to draw people. I just want to draw objects and I want to draw environments. And so I focused my whole 2 years on that. Anytime that I could get out of animation assignments, I would, to try and be like, oh, well, what if I like painted this environment for what the other kids are animating? And some of my teachers were very, very gracious and let me do that. And so I ended
Yeah,
up
because
having a
nobody
much
wants to do
stronger,
backgrounds. Yeah, that's a boon.
exactly,
Yeah, that's a boon that you were like into it.
exactly. I was like, here's my niche, baby, time to exploit it. And so they were like, okay, that's totally fine, Morgan. You do that. And I ended up having a much stronger uh like portfolio for that because I was focusing all my time and efforts into just this. And I am very, very eternally grateful to Mr. Mac Kerman and his partner, Lauren Partington, who scouted me from my grad show. They were from Titmouse and they were looking for people to come on into Titmouse Vancouver. And they ended up scouting me from that show. I was like, 2 weeks later after that show, I was like on the floor in my bedroom doing yoga. And I see the email from recruiting being like, hey, could you like come in for an interview for prop design? And I threw my phone against the wall because I was like, what? It's happening.
That's so cool, dude. What the heck? That's so awesome. That is, and so basically, would you describe the like last part of the school year to be like a portfolio show? Like how did they find your work? They found your work through the school? Um,
Yeah. So they would like open up like a little room for us. We'd have our little booths, kind of like a convention hall, right?
oh,
Hmm.
interesting. Okay, very cool.
And we would have all of our work kind of displayed on TV monitors, or I had my little iPad and I was standing there like a like a county fair show person being like,
Mhm.
look, see, come and see the background artist.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Wow,
that's when
very,
a background in theater and talking to people comes in very handy because I'm happy to have attention.
very true. I think no, this is great that you bring that up because I do think as a artist we definitely need to work on our like social skills are very, very important for networking in this industry. Tell us a little bit about the prop design job because you said you mostly focused on backgrounds during your school years.
Yeah, so I was a little surprised. I was like, oh, um, okay. I was really hoping I could do it, right? That wasn't necessarily my focus, but I was like, okay, I gotta trust this. They saw something. And so yeah, my first job was on Angry Birds Mystery Island.
Hmm.
And it was a really big deal for the Vancouver studio because I think, from what I understand, it was the first show that they were doing completely in-house.
Mm.
And so I ended up actually getting to do what is more akin to what LA normally does, where I was designing directly from the boards, and the boards were being done in-house, and it was being animated in-house and a little bit abroad. And all the visual development was done up here. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a massive honor to have as my first job, especially up here for us, because it's very unusual, right? I'd walk
Hmm.
around the studio, they'd be like, oh, you're new. What do you do? I'm a prop designer. And they'd look at me like, huh? What? We don't
What is
have
a prop?
those. I'm
What
like,
is a prop?
yeah.
They kick you out of the building. They're like, imposter.
You don't belong here.
You failed the
Yeah, I'm just there for
test.
the free
No.
snacks. Um, and I was terrified. Truly, I
Well,
was really scared. And because
when you when you started doing props there, if it was a
mhm.
position that hadn't really been done there before, who were you learning from? Like, were you just
So we
was it just
had
like, here's props, figure it out?
kind of, yeah. I mean, so we had our art director, our amazing art director, Chris Thompson, that we were working under. Incredible guy. And basically, yeah, it was just me, one other coworker, and then two other people on props and like kind of like effects. So they would like kind of draw
Hmm.
like if how
Hmm.
smoke would be designed and things like that. So it was basically just four of us and two main prop artists in there. And also it was a hybrid show. So it was 2D and we were using 3D Blender assets that also required like
Hmm.
detail paint overs. So I would get some 3D bases that I would need to then paint fully as well because they wanted it to not have a Scooby-Doo effect. So we would have backgrounds with props that were like fully integrated.
Mhm.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you couldn't tell like what cup are they going to pick up? Oh, it's clearly the simple one. No, they wanted it all integrated. So
Holy shit, yeah.
um yeah, who I learned under was like my own anxiety and like fear that this would be my only job.
Wow.
So, so basically I was like, they would give us the boards. I would look at the board design and I would kind of just, I would like, okay, lower the opacity on the boards, use that as my base, get all my roughs out on top of it directly, and then take that sketch and then redefine them and kind of clean them up and then hand them to my art director, like, please, Chris, please, this is okay. And the first 2 weeks, I was so bad. I was terrible. I think I was just so scared and I didn't know what was happening. And my painting ability at the time was a little bit better than my drawing ability. So
Hmm.
it was quite a learning curve at the start, but the contract they gave me was for only a month
Hmm.
because they were testing me out. So I was like, all right, Morgan, you made your partner move across the ocean. You switched careers. You went back to school for this. This can't end here.
Hmm.
So basically, I started like really, really trying to figure out a way that would work for me to make sure that I could design these quickly because we had to do 2 props per day before 3 p.m.
Hmm.
To be approved. And I basically I worked really, really hard in terms of like just trying to break down how can I do this as quickly as possible? What is going to help me get there? And I started utilizing things like Clip Studio Paint into my workflow, which would allow me to make my own rulers. So I
Nice.
could essentially like sketch my prop. Then I could in a vector. It was awesome. So I
Yeah.
could sketch it in vectors, convert, there's a button in Clip that says convert vector to ruler. So I could convert my vector sketch into a ruler. Then I could use the show style brush and go over it perfectly to make sure that it still had our like gritty brush effects, but the prop had like perfect, like elliptical proportions. Say if it's like something like a bottle. And that saved me so much time. And then I
Oh
ended up
shit.
being one of the fastest designers. And I think at my like 1 month check-in, they were like, "Well, we'll take you on for the full show."
Woo! That's
Woo!
awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out to Clip Studio Paint.
Yeah.
I also want to start sprinkling in some questions because we have a lot of them. Um,
Yes.
and I think you already kind of touched on that in the interview, but I do want to go a little deeper into this question. From our patron Puzzle Glum, what's the most efficient or effective way to improve your background painting or prop design skills, especially as a beginner?
Oh my gosh, what a great question. What's the most efficient way? Well, I would say like basically the way to learn any skill is to do trial, then to do like directed like learning, then to do application of that learning. So like what I would do essentially to get really, really good at painting or to learn light or learn color or to learn like draftsmanship for props is I would do 30 minutes in the morning of just timed gesture for like objects, right? Just like, I'm going to draw this box. Okay, quick, like, I'm going to quickly draw this like base, blah, blah, blah. Or I am going to do a timed map crunch study of a painting of this like, random Google Street View. I would do it. I would start crying. I would get very frustrated because boy, does it humble you fast. You're like, oh, okay, that's what I don't know. And then you pick yourself up off the floor and you dust the tears off of your Cintiq and you go, okay, well, what went wrong? Then you look, you go, okay, what I struggled with was I didn't know how to draw these ellipses on this vase. I didn't know what perspective this vase is turning. How do I do that? Or, I didn't know what to do when it got to this grass. I didn't know how to simplify the grass. Like it really bothered me. What happens? Okay, cool. Now we've got our directed questions. Now we can go and look how to solve those questions. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm going to look up an online course on simplifying foliage. all right, schoolism has one. I'm gonna watch 2 or 3 lectures on how this artist approaches like leaves or grouping values or how to like not get stressed out when I have like a something in the like a big like tree in the foreground. Like, how do I simplify this? Okay, I've watched my lecture. Now I'm going to put into practice what they said. All right, I'm going to try it on my own, my directed studies. And then at the end of the day, I go back to that time study and I do it again. And so I apply that knowledge. And that really helped me do things really, really quickly because I was like, okay, I'm addressing exactly what's not working. So I'm not wasting time on things that I'm already good at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making sure I hit the things that are snags, right? And then I would keep track of that, every day, like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to move through this. And so if you want to get good really, really quickly, make sure that you are giving yourself time to fail and fail spectacularly and then go, oh, shoot, okay, I'm humbled. Got to do that.
That's awesome.
It's good advice.
It's really great advice, and I love how in-depth it is, and I love that I think if somebody listens to it, they can apply it easily. We have a lot of questions are about kind of like learning and stuff, which is great. From YouTube, 43 to Neptune is asking, what can researching for prop design entail? My only way of researching is Googling and checking out books at the library when possible. So I'm wondering what research can be like for you.
Oh, I mean, those are both great ways of researching. Like books rule. Books don't have ads in them. So hell yeah, use
Yeah.
books. Like Pinterest and Google, it's flooded with AI and advertisements, and they haven't started putting those in the books. And when they do, God damn it. But until then, those are still free, beautiful resources. I think, yeah, what is it, 432 Neptune? Yeah, I mean, those are great ways to start. And that's like basically what I would say. But other types of researching you can do is just get your dirty little paws in the world. Go out there and touch a car. Figure out what's in the car.
Touch
Figure
a
out
car?
what's like, yeah, touch a car.
That's
Like,
the quote
I mean,
from the
like,
episode. Get out there and touch a car.
okay, wait, then maybe this analogy got away from me. There was one time I was talking to an art director. I was like, what's my portfolio missing? And I was showing them my designs. And he went, where's the throttle? On like a moped I threw or something. I went, what? He went, well, this thing has to move. Where is the throttle? I was like, oh, shoot. And I realized I didn't actually know how a moped worked. So I was like, well, maybe I'll go out and I'll rent one or I'll look at it and I'll try and figure out what is this made out of exactly before I start designing it.
Dude, it is so funny how many car chase scenes I've had to storyboard, and I don't know how to drive.
Wait, really?
Same.
I don't. I mean, yeah, I just haven't gotten my driver's license. But I've had to do so many where they're like, okay, yeah, right here they kick in the high gear, and I'm like, yeah, they really throttle it and they throw it into 7th gear, and then they hit the NOS button, and I'm like, which way do they turn the steering wheel to to turn it that way to skid? Like, and I'm just like throwing in random stuff.
Yeah, high gear is when they press the button that releases the 40 horses and the 40 horsepower engine.
Yeah, dude, I've seen Redline. I know what high gear is, and yeah, that's my main reference. They just get real long. I just bored them getting real long to go fast.
I feel like you can just pass your driver's license exam now. You've done so many car chases. They'll just give it to you.
Yeah, I'll show them my boarding driving reel, and they'll be like, "Yeah, you know how to drive." Okay.
Do you guys want to
Sean's a
know
master.
something crazy? For the written test for the for driving, I didn't even study. I like grabbed the booklet real fast. I think I was like so out of it. I read it real fast. Not even the whole thing. I took the test and I passed it.
Intuition, dude.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I was just like random. I like random passed it. Like
You were one with the road.
Dude, you're
You like
smart as
mind
hell.
melded.
I'm such a dangerous driver. Like I literally was just like, it's probably literally what I did. I was like, every question that has a number, I was like, I'm just gonna pick the safest number. All of them.
Wait, hold on. No, what is a
No,
safe number?
What do you, yeah,
What do you
well,
what do you
mean?
mean?
Okay, two's
well,
safe, but three is risky. Like
no, no,
what
but
does that
like,
mean?
how fast you go to drive in like a school area, and they're like probably like 20, 15, or 10. I'm like 10. I don't know.
Okay.
And I like all of these
Yeah,
questions, and that's how I passed it. So
dang.
That's very
I'm
impressive.
actually very impressed right now. Yeah, I'm getting chills.
you just gotta pick the safe numbers. Anybody listening, if you're ever passing your written test, just pick the safe numbers.
Dude, you should
It
teach a
works.
course on how to like how they have like standardized testing courses on how to like it's like a course on how to take a test, but like it's not necessarily how to know the information. It's like no,
Yes.
you're gonna want to make sure there's gonna be trick questions, and you want to make sure that if it's B or D, you're probably gonna pick D, or whatever. But you should
It's
do
just
that for
pattern
driving
seeking.
tests.
It's not about the information, it's all about the form. It's not about the content, it's about the patterns. And it's
Yeah. V's guide to safe
Yeah,
numbers. Like,
yeah.
hell yeah.
Yeah,
Feeling this 10.
V's gaming the road course.
it's it's so bad. It's so bad. That's why I don't drive. I'm like, I'm such a fucking liability, man.
Me
Like,
neither. We have such good public transit in Vancouver. I would never think about it.
man, I miss that. Oh man. How long have you been in Vancouver?
I lived here. I did when I did my first 2 years at UBC. So I moved. So I lived in Vancouver. I moved to Vancouver when I was 17. So I lived there 2014, 2015. So 2 years. Then I went to Scotland and England, and then came back here. So now I've been living here for four, about 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
I took the bus for a while to work, and then these I was standing on the bus because it was so full,
Yeah.
and these two guys in front of me both took out knives and started squaring off, and they were like right in front of me, and I was gonna like try to like run away, but the bus was packed, and right behind me was like a mother and her child, and I was like, I guess I'm getting stabbed today for bravery or something.
Yeah,
And
because
then
you can't let the mom and the child take your place.
yeah,
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
excuse me, I have to get to the back of the bus. No, but I remember they were like squaring off and like circling, and everyone was like, oh, and then the bus dinged and like announced that we were at the next stop, and then one of the guys was like, all right, this is my stop, I'll see you later, and like it was almost like I'll see you next week, same time next week, like all right, goodbye, and
Oh,
he just like got off the bus and just like nothing happened, and then the other guy sat down like nothing happened and just like folded his hands, and one guy was like, you can't just stay on the bus after that. You
That's
just tried to get in a knife fight with that guy. He was like, I don't know.
no.
No, I didn't.
no, I
That
didn't.
was just their hobby. That was just
That's
their hobby. Oh
Yes,
my
yeah. So
God.
I kind of stopped taking the bus after that. Uh, yeah.
Honestly, that's crazy because I always thought like the bus was safer than the metro because the metro got really bad. Like after the pandemic, the metro in LA got
Hmm.
really dodgy, and I was just like, all right, I'm done with this. But
Oh
There's
my
so
just
God.
like
far so
more
good.
knife
I'm
fights
just
on the metro. It's like
Oh,
three per
I'm
every
just
one on the
absolutely
bus.
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
am so floored by the concept of like knife fights being the cure to male loneliness.
God.
Yeah, it's the only time that you get to lock eyes with another man.
Yeah, it's
Then
like
you're like,
Uh,
okay, see you Tuesday. Bye.
I'll see you
you
Tuesday.
finally feel alive, It's
He
the
goes
only
home.
thing that you're looking for.
Goes home and he writes in his diary like, "Got in another knife fight with Jose again today. It felt really good circling around to each other, and I felt like I saw a different side of him that I did last week.
No,
I could
wait,
tell
we're
he's been
cooking. This is a good
training.
enemies to lovers.
Yeah, oh,
I
yeah.
could tell he's been training because he was less out of breath, and I was really trying to get my anxiety under control. Like it's
I'm
just
thinking,
this little journal.
yeah, the little journal, and then it's like, I wish I had. I don't know if I can just handle only one. I might need more knife
Yeah. And
friends.
then they're just gonna
But
make an advanced fight club.
mhm. Enough about knives,
Sorry,
everybody.
guys.
Mhm. A knife is a prop. We're on
On the
topic.
last knife
You can
story that
design
we're
that.
doing tonight,
I
I ruined it for everybody.
A special Raptor 2712 asks on YouTube, do you have any tips for someone that is interested in background painting? Maybe some suggestions on exercises.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The map crunch studies rule. Map crunch is an amazing website, mapcrunch.com. You just go in there, it pulls up a random street view. And if you tell yourself, I'm going to paint this bad boy in 30 minutes or an hour, you will learn so much. That's an excellent exercise. I would also say that, like, I don't know if you know, like on early internet, on DeviantArt and stuff, those like render cubes used to be really popular. It was like just a cube, and you'd be like, this one's water, this one's meat.
Oh, that's
Um,
true.
Hmm.
I remember.
those are not, I would not recommend doing those. What
Hmm.
I would recommend is doing your little map crunch study and then popping a cube in there and trying to make that cube fit that environment. Because those
Interesting.
render studies, they're cool, but they don't work in isolation because things like metal, things like transparency, things like translucency and subsurface scattering, those are all dictated by the object, like what environment the object's in. So if you know the context of what's around your cube, you can test yourself to see like, okay, if this cube is chrome, how does it look like in this background? And it can
Yeah.
really help you learn materials like super quickly, like and be informed by like what's around you rather than it just being like in a void.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Put your cube of choice in the middle of your favorite anime screenshot, and then try to paint that.
It would actually work really well, I think.
This is my
Um,
painting of a metallic cube next to Boruto.
Ah, ah.
this is my Boruto cube, my OC, don't steal.
My OC don't steal. The cube is the OC. I love
This is
that.
the
It's
cube
so
made
funny.
of Boruto. This is my
Ah,
my cube sona
My
of
Boruto meat cube.
my
my
cube
my,
soda.
my cubified Boruto fan art.
My-
What
Well, I'm
what
gonna
anime
make spear
character?
sonas.
Yeah, what anime character would most likely be a cube?
Rock Lee.
Okay.
Next question.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that is a good question. That is a
Yeah.
good. I was gonna say Brock from Pokemon because it's kind of like Brick, but I think
Yeah.
that you nailed it.
Perfect
I'm
answer.
trying, I'm trying to think of any other like good painting exercise. Those are great,
No,
honestly.
those are great.
Yeah.
On Twitter, we have Casey Pants Pants asking if you could live in a different country for a year, which country would it be?
Okay, well, I guess I'll check off the UK. We don't need to go back. We did that. Um, and Canada, I guess. We've done that too. I would love to live in let's see, France. I would love to live in France.
Sorry, you're
I would
going
love
to
it so much.
Kazakhstan. Sorry.
Yeah, they're
That's
picking
how.
for me, sorry.
Yeah, they
And
keep
you know what?
picking for you.
I go with the flow. I'm sure I'd learn something.
Oh my God. Obviously, I'm biased towards France.
Hmm.
You should go and check it out. Jillian 3G, how is your thought process when designing concepts? Where'd you get your ideas from and such?
Oh, Jillian. Jillian's sweet. Jillian's an amazing biz dev artist as well. What is my thought process when designing concepts? I love to break things down when I'm designing stuff based off of like profession elements, storytelling elements, and then like whatever my design is being informed by. So like recently I did a concept art mentorship with Camila Schutenberg, and she's fantastic. Um, and she basically pitched to us like, okay, I need you to design a society based on a species of bird. And so I chose the common loon, and I designed a bunch of like a sheriff's houseboat that maybe like this loon society like he would live on, and this is how it would operate. And so basically I broke it down into like, okay, this like boat is going to need professional elements. He's a sheriff, so I'm going to have to think about what is he going to need in this environment. He's going to need a radio, he's going to need paperwork, he's going to need a desk, or processing, things like that. Then I broke it down to storytelling. Who is this kind of person? What kind of stuff like is going to be in his environment? Is he a messy sheriff? Is he very orderly? Is he like he lives on a boat, so he's going to need ways to like catch his food. He's going to have crab traps. He's going to have, maybe like mementos from his children, I think I put in like child support papers on his desk or something.
Hell yeah.
Um, I'm always ruining the lives of the people I paint, but that's fine. I have another one that is that is like just an old man sitting alone on his birthday, and people felt so bad for him. I kept getting all these quote tweets that were like, "You monster." I was like, "I'm sorry." Um, so I do those two, and then I finally I'll use the like species or like the object or the mood that I'm trying to evoke in the design. So for a loon, they spend most of their life in water, so I knew that this was going to be a connected society of houseboats. Their feet are farther back on their body, so I wanted the bulk of the boat design to be shifted to the back to reflect that, and I wanted it to be made out of like shingles because feathers work as an interlocking system to keep out water. And loons need water in their environment. So I decided, okay, the boats are going to work as airboats and they're going to use diamagnetic propulsion. They're going to use magnets on the bottom of the boat so that way they don't disturb the water surface and they don't pollute the water because, loons need that to live. So I kind of break it down into three different categories, and then I pick and choose from those categories in order to like make informed design decisions through shape language and through like my storytelling elements. And where I get my ideas, oh man, everywhere. I actually really love opera. So
Hmm.
I pull a lot from opera. I love Philip Glass. Like he has an opera called Einstein on the Beach, where instead of it being sung in a different language, it's all numbers. So it's just people singing like 1, 2, 3, 4 over and over and over for like 4 hours. And I think it's the most
Wow.
it's crazy. It's crazy. You can see it on YouTube, and I'm very deeply inspired by that kind of stuff, like things that are like weird ritual practice or things that are staged very intentionally. Like I get so inspired by that stuff, and I get a lot of my inspiration just to like, man, watching movies, reading books, like engaging with other people, or just having like lots and lots of little life experience that I can draw on. Like I've done lots and lots of odd jobs. I've worked in a hospital. I've worked for wedding catering. I've done dog daycare. I've done everything under the sun. So having a lot of that stuff that I can draw on is really, really useful for like all the little lives I've lived in my short 28 years.
That's so cool, dude. I love that you've done like a ton of different jobs. Are these different jobs that you're talking about stuff that you did when you were in school or things that you do in between gigs? Like, tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about
this is
that.
cheaply stuff that I did like through high school and then putting myself through my degrees.
Mm-hmm.
They're expensive. So I was like, all right, we got to do some odd stuff in between that. So
Mm-hmm.
they're just things that I've done in between. And I have actually been very fortunate enough to work consistently from when I graduated to basically now. Now is my first big career break from animation that in between contracts. So I've been very lucky to have like a good long run for a bit.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, that's super awesome. I think I say that also because I think that's something that's super important when, especially if you like, I mean, obviously, like you said in your job, you're using it like every day, but also like for storytelling and kind of having experiences feel real is
Oh,
like
for
how,
sure. You meet
yeah.
so many new people in those types of jobs that you would not like be exposed to in otherwise in your day-to-day life, right? Like, and it's really nice to see all these different places that people are coming from, and you develop such a big sense of the world, and like your empathy grows and your ability to relate to other people and to like put yourself in their shoes or to want to tell their stories. Like, it's the best.
Yeah, super inspiring.
If you had to pivot again, what would you choose? If you had to pivot again into another career after animation, what? Because it seems
Yeah,
like you have just this long list of things that you like.
man, I don't know. I Do you know what? Like I've really recently gotten so into this podcast called Ologies.
Mm.
It's a woman who does a lot of science communication. She's fantastic, Ali Ward. And every week she interviews a new ologist. So a biologist or a marine archaeologist or like, you know, a sociologist or like a guy who studies abandoned buildings. I don't know the ology for that, but
Mhm.
and it's been super, super inspiring lately to me. And like, I'm like, dang, this stuff's so cool. Like, I would really love to go if I had to pivot. I would probably pivot um, to like ecology or going more into like eco sciences
Mm.
or trying to figure out um, more about the natural world because like that's just really like filling my cup lately.
Hell yeah. What were
Nature
you gonna
rules.
what were you gonna ask V before I asked that?
Oh, I was just gonna go. I'm trying to go through all the questions because we have a lot and they're all awesome.
Hell yeah.
Okay, I've got time.
Um,
Don't worry.
from Instagram, Uncle Tito Rips. I enjoy your work a lot. Big fan of the exaggerated tilts in your backgrounds. Does that come from a previous job or just personal preference? Smiley.
What is there's like a classic Twitter meme that that came up a couple of months ago that's like the viz dev artist lean.
So funny. It's like your Dutch angle curse.
Wait, this thing is it's a common thing amongst viz dev artists?
Yeah, where it's like normal cube and then it's like viz dev artist cube and it's like kind of leaned and it's got like the Spider-Verse like dot work on it and it's got like kind of the like like
That's
lines
hilarious.
coming off of it. And we all saw that and we all went, well,
Called out.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the lean comes from, but I guess for me personally, I just think it makes things look a little bit more wonky, a little bit more lived in, a little bit more dynamic, and it's kind of fun to play with those proportions in a way where it's like, just gonna pull this corner out a little bit. It makes things feel less real, I guess, in a way that it's like a bit more fun. And yeah, I guess maybe I'm just leaning into the like, heck yeah, this is the viz dev way to go about it.
You're leaning into
That's
the
cool.
lean. That's cool.
Exactly.
Ginger Tattooer on Instagram asks, "Why are you so cool?"
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. An insatiable desire for knowledge and a lust for learning.
I think
That
from
sounds
the interview that is very true. I think something that's really cool about listening to you talk about not only your career, how you got into the arts, but also your life in general, is that you're always curious and excited to like think about the future and new opportunities. Like even when in the face of friggin' COVID, which was like really hard emotionally for a lot of people, like you went straight into like action and problem solving and excitement. And I think that is something that is very inspiring, especially
well,
for an
it's
artist.
well, thank you. I really appreciate that. But it's also like it's one of those things where it's like, man, what a better world we could have if we had UBI and we had safeguards for people to take the time to do that. Because I was
Mhm.
only able, like, people will be like, "Oh, that's amazing. That's so inspiring," and I don't want to say no because it's important to be like, yeah, that was hard work, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. But equally, I do want to highlight that like that took a very special amount of circumstances. I was being paid for my job because I was furloughed,
Hmm.
and so I was able to just sit there and dedicate, 8 hours a day to learning art. Um, and my partner at the time was like taking over a majority of like cooking and cleaning and helping out with that domestic labor while I tried to pivot the careers. And I think people should take that into consideration when they want to learn or they're trying to chart their own course with this is that you can do it. You absolutely can do it. But the older you get, the more responsibilities you have, and the
Hmm.
harder it gets to carve out that time.
Sure.
And it might be a situation where you need to work and if you want to learn on the side, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. And I really hope at some point in the world we can get to a stage where it's like people can have some income through like some sort of like government program or at least like some support that allows them to just sit
Hmm.
and learn something and pivot if they need to pivot.
Mhm.
That's so true, man. Holding out for that UBI. We're all out
Yeah,
there thinking about it. I think it would work. I think it would be good.
I agree.
Flesh Instinct on Instagram asked, "Do you prefer SpongeBob or Chowder more? Be honest."
Be honest. I know you're gonna
Be
try to
honest.
be like a
Oh, going
politician
to
with
my
this answer.
yeah, I'm in the minefield. I'm like, oh, uh-oh. Um, you know what? My sister and I grew up quoting all classic three seasons of SpongeBob at each other, and I think I could do the entire movie, like gun to my head. I could probably quote the entire thing start to finish. and I have such respect for SpongeBob and I love it, but I think I have to go with Chowder. I think I have to go with Chowder.
That's
I,
so funny. Why?
because, you know, it, I remember being absolutely mesmerized by the art direction of that show,
The patterns.
with the texture. Yeah, the patterns.
I
And
know.
also like the humor, like the comedic sensibilities of that show was like absolutely incredible. Like CH Greenblatt is such an amazing creator. And I also kind of love that it's like, oh yeah, they're all chefs. Like what an amazing concept to be a chef's apprentice. I love it. It's great.
Oh, yeah.
CH Greenblatt episode 45 of Creative Block. If y'all are listening for the first time, make sure to check out his episode right after this one. This is a
Like,
great
don't
answer.
take a break.
Don't take a break.
You must stay sitting, and you need to go listen to that one.
Creative Block
Yeah.
forever. We have on Blue Sky from at Malk Manosphere. I've noticed quite a few references to stuff in Tales of the TMNT, like how Hans Brick has the face of Plank from Ed, Edd n Eddy. Have you ever hidden a pop culture reference in anything you worked on?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I have to say, what a huge honor it was to work on, at TMNT. Turtles is fantastic, and I like adored Mutant Mayhem. It was incredible, and being able to like build onto that legacy is like just like it blows my mind every day that I was able to do that. In terms of like hiding little fun tidbits, that's not a thing that will occur as much up at in Canada or at service studios, just because, we want to keep good relations with
Mm-hmm.
the other people that we work with. And because we are providing additional support, we don't want to make a headache for legal down the pipeline, right? So it's not something that we have as much leeway with doing at that stage, because we're not at the previs or the viz dev stage where we can kind of hide in those little things. We're more in like all right, we're just going to make sure that we get everything else together for the episode. But when I was prop designing on Angry Birds, I was able to do a little bit more in regards to that. And I think we had the characters in that show, like they were collect trash all the time. Trash was just like getting launched at their island. And so I do remember being able to get away with putting in like Guy Fieri's like flame shirt that one of the characters picks up. And our showrunner, Eric Rogers, fantastic guy. I remember him just writing on the notes for that, just ha ha ha, I love this. Keep this in.
Of all the things, of all the things you could have chosen at that moment to put in, that is very funny.
I just wanted to go to Flavor Town. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so iconic, that look.
Mm-hmm.
On Instagram, we have a lot of great questions from Days Comics. I'm going to ask all of them. As your work has evolved throughout your career, how have you approached tailoring your portfolio for different studios or roles? So that's the first
Dang,
one.
that's a great question. Yeah, I'm kind of now at the point in my career where, I've got a good handle on what I want. I've got a good handle on what I can do stylistically, and I've got a much better handle on my voice. Like for a while, I really, really struggled with imposter syndrome just because I did this so quickly. There wasn't any time to think really.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I'm in it. Oh God, can I be in it? Am I like, can I do this? And I feel like now I'm in a place where I'm like, okay, I know what I'm trying to say. I can draw a VizDev cube. I know my lean. And I'm like, okay, so I pulled a lot of stuff out of my portfolio just in the past year that was more generalist stuff. Like I don't have to show as much. Like before, I had a lot of stuff that was like, well, I could also maybe do character, or I could maybe do this, and I pulled a lot of that stuff. So I was like, all right, this is very clearly not what's sparking for me, and not what's other people who are looking to hire me or interested in seeing from me. They're kind of expecting things that are more in background paint and a little bit more like conceptual design. And I was like, all right, that's cool. So now I'm sort of in the point where it's like, okay, I'm tailoring things more towards where I want to transition to, which would ideally be feature. I would love to get into doing, to make that jump from TV into doing more previs and biz dev for feature stuff. I'm doing a little bit of freelance for that kind of stuff now. So I'm just starting now to like sort of like tailor things into more of that pipeline. So I'm trying to teach myself a little bit more on how to do things like color keys and how to do a little bit more color design, or how to showcase all the ideation stages of my props, or like really get a handle on the like doing keyframe shots, like the classic like paintings of like, all right, this is the big moment. And I'm also trying to transition into finding something that I want to adapt into a visual medium, just to prove to myself, like, okay, I can do this working from a source material.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Hell yeah.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Let's go to the second part of the question. Do you think it's more effective to showcase a range of styles or focus on a consistent personal voice?
You know, this is like the is art school worth it
Yeah,
question,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
it's very like it's up to you, right? Like I am it's very, very individually driven, I think. Like if you are a person who's like you're a draftsman master, you can draw whatever. Maybe it is good to have like a very generalist portfolio, because you never know. Like someone might be like, hey, I wasn't really feeling you, but then I saw your character work and I was like, dang, that rules. Let's do it. Um, but there's also like there's merit to be had if you are a specialist, right? If you're like, I do this one thing and I do this one thing really, really well. And in that case, you might not even need to have like that many examples. You might need to have a portfolio of maybe like really six really good polished pieces, where it's like, clearly, this is what I got, this is my niche. And there might be studios who really like appreciate that one style that you're doing, who are like really eager to work with you, right? Like that more graphic kind of Spider-Verse style that's very popular right now. There's a lot of places that want that. And so if that's something that you specialize in and can stick to, that might bode very well for you. But I don't know, like it's if you feel like you're interested in more things, don't limit yourself. Like I don't love drawing people. That's very unusual, I think, for
Yeah.
an artist. Like I didn't start with OCs. I didn't start really like with fan art. My fan art was like the dot, the line, and the cube, and I love drawing those.
Wow, you're doing fan arts of Kaninsky.
I
Going
just
straight to
like
the bathhouse.
I love drawing toasters. I love drawing mixers, right? Like that for me is my Boruto time. So because of that, I don't showcase a lot of character work in my portfolio, because, if someone told me once, they're like, well, if you don't put in what you don't want to get hired for, and I was like, yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. So maybe if you're like, yeah, I really do actually want to get hired for more than one type of role, it's probably beneficial for you to showcase that diversity. But if you're like, brother, I'm gonna paint the heck out of the cityscape and that's all I want to do, like that's okay too.
It's awesome. Yeah, I think that's really true. I personally think also, especially as you, as an artist, create a career, you definitely have to be mindful of the way you curate the portfolio. And I think exactly everything that you said, Morgan, like the things you want to do, put the things that you
Yeah.
want to do. Yeah. We also have from Sunny Side Up, Ila. What do you feel is a big inspiration for your work that isn't immediately obvious? I'm curious specifically about inspiration that isn't just from animation slash background.
I think, yeah, I mean, obviously theater. I think that's very apparent, because a lot of my backgrounds I think of as sets, right? Which has helped a lot, because it's like, okay, this is a staging ground for a story to be told, right? Like when you work in animation, you're working for the camera, which is basically your fourth wall, which is so cool. So you're like, oh, cool. I get to like think about this as my little dollhouse, where I get to move my little my little objects about the room. And so that's been so useful for me. So like when I was working as a venue manager at the Soho Theater, I was getting to see experimental shows or comedy acts every single night. So I got to take lots and lots of notes on how things were staged and how they were visually communicating things. And I like seen so many cool things that like, oh, this is how you translate this mental state to stage, to a visual medium. Like, this is crazy. Like, there's an incredible piece called I'm a Phoenix Bitch by Bryony Kimmings. and
Hmm.
she's a performance artist, and she went through she went through postpartum
Hmm.
after her birth, and she wanted to talk about like what that felt like and how she was struggling to care for her baby. And so on stage, she built herself an actual like model home of her home, and she broke it apart and she showed you like inside and what her life was like and how she was dealing with this. And I was like, man, that's such a cool visual metaphor. So I take a lot of inspiration from stage and how they try to showcase like what does it feel like, and how can we put that feeling into the architecture itself, right? I think that stuff is so freaking cool, especially in costume design, right? Like, wow,
Hmm.
you can learn so many cool things if you look up opera costumes or theatrical costumes. And so that's stuff that I take a heck of a lot of inspiration from, as well as just like, oh man, one of the other things that really inspires me is just Americana. I love
Yeah, yeah.
Americana. I love kitsch. I love folk art, like any of that stuff. Like I think there's a lot of love for that and some of the stuff that I do, which is very like I love to draw dive bars. I love to draw like very dingy like
Mhm.
places that you might find in a rest stop in the Southwest. Like,
Uh-huh.
man, I think that stuff is so great. Like just some like weird fucked up little like folk art creature that someone's made in their spare time. I love that stuff.
No, that's so real. It's those places that have a lot of life that are like embedded
Yeah,
into them.
Lived
Hmm.
in,
Lived in,
lived in hard.
lived in hard.
lived in heart.
Dude, my wife always tells me that I like use things hard. like my chair falls apart fast. My headphones break, more quickly. My whatever it is, like I like really use it, and just things don't things don't last as long. Yeah, but like that, yeah, that I feel like that's like the really like lived in spaces where you can tell there's like a dent, like there's a dent from when someone punched something, and or one of the
Yeah,
sign lights are out, or like it's like lived in.
Hmm.
I love that. I lived in hard. I'm
Lived
gonna use
in.
that.
Spicy flower underscore on Instagram. I'm so intrigued by the way your art tells such a clear story and provides a history of the people, energy, or events that have influenced the spaces you create. Can you describe the process of how you deliver that information visually? Does it start with small personal details and objects, dissecting and portraying the feeling, or thinking about the archaeological impact on the space?
Wow, that's such a great question. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Crazy. Um, First of all, wow, thank you so much. How I deliver that information visually. Yeah, I mean, I guess everything I do, like I'm very interested in nature versus nurture, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
character design, you're thinking of this person and the impacts that their experiences had on their body and on them as a human being, right? Background design, background painting, visual development, we're thinking about the nurture side of things. Like how has this space impacted the characters and how is it a reflection of the characters and how is it a reflection of like how they see themselves versus maybe who they want to be. Like there's a lot of interesting conflict that can arise from looking around someone's room, and maybe it's just because I'm naturally a snoop, but like I love being in people's bedrooms. I love like looking at objects. I love like um, you know looking at someone's bookshelf and seeing what they're reading, and like because I feel like those things they tell you so much about a person. Like, do they display their trinkets? Are they minimalist? Like, are they organized? Or do they hang their portraits with proper frames and nails, or are they just putting it up on the wall with tape because they're renting and they don't want to make holes, or things like that? Like, what type of furniture is around? Is it eclectic? Right? Is it all like bespoke?
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know. Like it's
there's someone in my Discord art community who ordered a print of
yeah.
mine and then put it in a large sandwich bag and then duct taped it to his wall and took a picture of it, and at first I thought it was a joke, but he has sent me other things and that's still there, and then other things of mine are also hung with duct tape. I just sorry that your tape to the
I
wall thing reminded me of it.
That is so funny. This is the kind of stuff where like sometimes I love hanging out on Reddit and stuff, like especially like what is it called? Male living spaces
Male
where
living
like
spaces.
dude, this that you can't make that shit up. Like I can't even like never in my life,
No.
even if I tried, even if I went out of my way, I couldn't come up with
Well,
that.
do you remember those images of the creator of Sailor Moon's living space with
Oh my
Yeah.
her
God.
later husband who created Hunter x Hunter or whatever? Like their living spaces compared. It's so funny, dude.
I'm just seeing the sandwich bag on the wall and then just like maybe one lazy boy and that's the whole room. I love that. That's incredible. Like what peak character design? You couldn't think of that in a million years. Like that's life imitating art, baby.
That's what
That's
they had.
awesome.
They're like proud of the picture, but also what they had was
I love
plastic
that.
and duct tape. And so they're
A
proud of
hope
it,
and
but
a
like they
dream.
just yeah.
But I also
I
love
love that.
the like that they would share it, you know what I mean? Like I think it also, it's like
They're like, I got your art, it's safe. And I'm
yeah.
like, barely safe, but sure. Awesome. That's crazy.
So
I'm
funny.
obsessed with that. That's incredible. That's a new one. I love that. There's definitely going to be a painting I make now where there's a something in a sandwich bag on the wall.
I was gonna say I
I'll
better see
expect it.
that in
I
your next
better.
piece. That's so funny. Yeah. So you're thinking about all of these things and how do you kind of like let's look at it also from a very technical point of view. Like when now you're in front of your blank canvas, how do you
Mhm.
start kind of organizing that information visually? Because all of this is like things that you like that you think about, that you've noticed. They're all like all this information stored in your brain. How do you kind of go about layering all that information on a in a drawing, in a painting?
Yeah. Good question. I mean, I think at that point you need to go, um, okay, what's actually most important, right? Then we start looking at like what are their priorities here? Like how many of these details do I actually need to convince you of this person? It's just
Mhm.
sort of like in design where you're like, how many lines do I actually need to create this arm I'm trying to convey to you, right? So I try to think of like, okay, what's the most like top important ones that will give you a sense of who lives here and like how they live here. Like, okay, if I throw a couple clothing around, they're messy. If I have a sandwich bag taped to the wall, maybe they don't want to
Oh
make any
yeah.
permanent holes. Okay, cool. From there, I think it's just like going, okay, let's make a couple little choices and then we can start thinking about how can we highlight those choices through mood and through atmosphere and through making sure that everything is like drawing your attention to those. Cause like that's what I want you to see first, right?
Hmm.
Like that's like the most important thing is to get a snapshot of that character. And so it's like placing those lived in elements in ways that is drawing your eye to making sure that you're like noticing them and going, oh, okay.
Mhm.
I see what's happening here.
That's great. We have, and I'm very curious to hear your answer because you seem like
Sure.
someone who always have a ton of ideas and is very solution oriented. Have you ever faced creative block? And if you do, how do you handle it?
Oh man. It's not that I face creative block so much, is that I face organizational and time block where I'm very ADHD. I'm neurodivergent in that way, in that when I'm working, when I'm on contract, when I'm on a show, it's very all or nothing. And then organizing time to get to my other ideas or to do personal art is very difficult. Or sometimes I have so many ideas, like little angry bees in my head. It's actually harder to like pick one and then sit down and settle on it. That's the stuff that I find
Mhm.
much more difficult. And just because I am a little bit more early on, it's there's so many more things that I want to say and that I want to do, but it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, oh, we have to pick one, settle on it, remember to do it, or set aside time for it. And that's kind of my version of creative block, where it's like, uh-oh, I only have 3 hours between, my contract, or if I'm off contract, then it's like, okay, we have to structure ourselves. What's happening? Um, and for me, that's just like really trying to get good at like working with my energy.
Hmm.
I'm really, really good in the morning. I can't do anything past 5 p.m. My brain
Interesting.
shuts off. So I I try to find ways to go, okay, this is your brain dump, get it all out, pick one of the angry bees. We're gonna go with it in the morning and see where it goes. And if by the afternoon I've completely lost steam on that idea, I switch to the next one.
Nice.
Well, you're doing this past 5 p.m. and you're doing great. I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm like, grandma's gotta go to bed.
Well, bedtime comes for all of us, and even for this podcast.
Bedtime for this podcast. What's the
Right?
bedtime routine? We tuck the podcast in. We kiss it goodnight. We read it as what kind of story do we read it? What genre?
Actually, this is gonna go on a wild tangent, but the kind of like my dad would like read us stories before bed, and he picked like the stories that was written in like the late 1800s, and it was always about orphans like going through the worst trials of society. And when I think on it, I'm like, I don't know if I really enjoyed these as
It
a
sounds like this
Yeah.
child.
is
Is that
subliminal warfare. You better behave,
Yeah,
or we're putting you up
yeah,
for adoption.
yeah. Exactly. It was.
I don't think that would comfort me to sleep. I'd be like, oh gosh.
Yeah. But those
I'm
were so
comforted by the thought
popular.
of orphans now. Weird.
It just makes you into a worse person.
Yeah. I'm so glad that there's orphans out there that I could teach my kids about before they go to bed.
Oh
Oh
my
my
God.
God.
Anyway, we tried to end the podcast and then
Yeah.
I
We're
hijacked
gonna
it,
be
talking about how we're tucking in.
we're gonna be orphaned of this guest. Unfortunately, we wish it could be longer, but every good thing comes to an end. Morgan, anything that you wanna plug before we go?
Yeah, if you are local to Vancouver, in September, I will be doing a solo art show at Slice Gallery,
Woo!
September 8th. It will be portraits of soft electronics. So blenders, toasters, KitchenAids, all those beautiful things from the 1960s and 70s. I'll have their beautiful little paintings up on the wall. And other than that, I'll just plug that I am currently open for work on any visual development or background stuff or freelance or contract, whatever you need.
You better
But not
snap.
people.
But
Not
people.
people.
Not people.
We don't want to draw people.
Toasters only.
Toasters only. Toasters only.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you also to our listeners. Follow us on social media at CRTV Block, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions to ask our guests. Huge thanks to our editor, Clemens, for editing the podcast, Marco for helping us produce the show, and Abuka for creating the short clips we've been putting out.
If you love our show, you can support us on Patreon. Becoming a patron gets you early access to interviews, access to our Discord community, and we also are starting to paywall, like I think the later half of the episode, just to make it more digestible for the algorithm. Yada yada yada. Make sure to check it out. But also a great way you can support us is by liking, subscribing, commenting, all that good stuff. Thank you all so much. I see some of the regulars commenting on every single episode. Y'all are the best. You're helping us out. We see you. Click the link in the description of this episode to follow Morgan on all of their socials and to find our Patreon. I've been your host, V.
And I was Sean. Keep being creative, and we'll see you next week. And I see you too.